I sat frozen as Bob Graves clicked through my presentation slides. My stomach dropped with each bullet point he read aloud, every word, every chart, every strategy one had spent 3 months perfecting. The executives nodded and smiled while he basked in their praise. "Outstanding work, Bob," Mr. Bryan beamed. "This is exactly the innovative thinking our company needs." The applause filled the room. Bob's eyes found mine across the table, and his smirk was pure poison. "Of course, I had some support from the team," Bob said with fake modesty. "Owen here helped with some of the research." Research. 3 months of work reduced to research. Mr. Bryan barely looked my way. "Great to have good support staff," he muttered. Support staff. I was a marketing manager, not an intern. As the meeting ended and people congratulated Bob, I realized he had planned this. Every friendly conversation, every time he asked to review my work, it had all been leading to this moment. I stumbled to the bathroom on shaking legs, trying to process what had happened. My reflection looked pale and defeated. The door swung open, and I heard voices. "Bob's definitely going places," someone said. "That presentation was incredible." "Yeah," while Owen just sat there looking confused. "Some people talk a big game but can't deliver." I stayed hidden in the stall, my face burning with shame. When I returned to my desk, something caught my eye. My USB drive sat in the exact center of my keyboard. I always kept it locked away. The files were still there, but the timestamps had changed. Someone had accessed them at 11:30 p.m. last Tuesday, the same night Bob had stayed late. I looked across the office at Bob's desk. He was on the phone, laughing about his big presentation win. When he caught me staring, he winked. This wasn't accidental. Bob had systematically stolen my work, and now he was taunting me. "Bob, we need to talk." I cornered him by the coffee machine. He stirred his coffee slowly, not looking up. "Sure, Owen. What's on your mind?" "That was my presentation yesterday. My research, my strategy, my 3 months of work." Bob looked at me with fake concern. "Owen, buddy, I think you might be confused. That was a team project. We all contributed ideas." "Contributed ideas?" "I created that entire campaign from scratch. Let's keep our voices down." Bob glanced around. "You need to focus on being helpful instead of trying to take credit for team efforts." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Be careful what you accuse people of, Owen. False accusations can really hurt a career. Especially when you're already on thin ice." "Thin ice? What are you talking about?" Bob's smile was pure venom. "Ask around. People are starting to notice things about your performance." "Owen, can I talk to you privately?" Grace from accounting pulled me aside after lunch. She looked nervous. "I probably shouldn't say anything, but I heard some concerning things about you." My stomach dropped. "What kind of things?" "Bob was telling people that you've been acting strange lately. Paranoid. He said you accused him of stealing your work and got really aggressive." "Grace, he did steal my work. He also said you've been struggling with pressure. That you missed deadlines and made excuses instead of owning up to mistakes." "That's not true. He's been saying these things to a lot of people. Making it sound like he's worried about you. Like a concerned colleague." While I'd been focused on the presentation theft, Bob had been running a smear campaign. "There's more," Grace whispered. "He told Mr. Bryan that you've been asking weird questions about company policies. He suggested you might be looking to blame others for your performance issues." I felt trapped. Bob had stolen my work and made me look unstable for calling him out. That night, I stayed late to dig through my email logs. The office was empty, giving me space to think clearly. I opened my email analytics and found what made my blood run cold. 3 separate unauthorized logins to my account over the past month. All from IP addresses that weren't mine. All during off hours when I wasn't in the office. I traced the IP addresses using the company's network tools. 2 led back to the office building, someone accessing my account from here after hours. The third was external, from a residential address in Brooklyn. I cross-referenced the dates with my calendar. Each unauthorized login happened the day after I'd shared progress updates with Bob. Every time I'd trusted him with information, someone had hacked my account within 24 hours. I printed the evidence and hid it in my locked desk drawer. This was proof someone had been stealing my work. But I needed to be smart. Bob had already painted me as paranoid. If I went to management with accusations, I'd just confirm his narrative. I needed to catch him in the act. I spent the next week playing a different game. Instead of confronting Bob, I went quiet. Let him think he'd won. I documented everything in a private notebook. His comments to coworkers. The times he lingered near my desk. The way he volunteered information about my projects in meetings. The pattern became clearer each day. Bob wasn't just opportunistic, he was methodical. He'd identified me as competition and decided to eliminate me through sabotage. "Owen, you seem distracted lately," he said during a team meeting. "Everything okay?" "Just focusing on work," I replied. "Good to hear. Actually, since you're working on the Goodness Industries pitch, maybe I should jump in to help out. Make sure everything goes smoothly." There it was. Bob was already positioning himself to take credit. But this time, I was ready. "That's generous, but I've got it under control." "Are you sure? It's a big client. I'd hate to see anything go wrong." The threat was clear. Either let him help or risk sabotage. But I smiled and nodded. Inside, I was already planning my next move. The Goodness Industries presentation was scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. I spent 3 days perfecting every slide, keeping all files on a separate, encrypted drive that never left my sight. Thursday arrived, and I walked into the conference room feeling prepared. The Goodness executives were seated, along with Mr. Bryan and our leadership team. Bob sat in the back corner with fake supportive concern. I plugged in my laptop and opened my presentation. The title slide appeared perfectly. I began my opening remarks. Then slide 3 appeared completely blank. I clicked forward. Slide 4 showed corrupted text symbols. I clicked again. An embarrassing cartoon character filled the screen. The Goodness executives shifted uncomfortably. I frantically clicked through the presentation, but every slide was either corrupted, blank, or filled with nonsense. "I'm so sorry," I stammered. "There seems to be a technical issue." Mr. Owen, the Goodness CEO, stood up. "We flew here specifically for this presentation. This is extremely unprofessional." The Goodness team filed out. Mr. Bryan looked furious. "What the hell was that, Owen?" Bob shook his head with perfectly crafted sympathy. "I really hoped this wouldn't happen." I offered to help, but he insisted on handling it alone. "You're on probation, Owen. One more screw-up and you're gone." I sat at my desk in stunned silence. My career was hanging by a thread, and Bob had orchestrated everything. "Rough day, huh?" I looked up to see John from IT standing by my desk. He was young, quiet, and one of the few people who'd never seemed impressed by Bob's charm. "Yeah, you could say that." John glanced around, then leaned closer. "Can I ask you something? Have you been having computer issues lately? Weird login notifications, files acting strange?" My heart jumped. "Why do you ask?" "Because I've been tracking unusual network activity. Someone's been accessing employee accounts after hours, and your account shows up in the logs a lot. You saw the unauthorized logins? More than that. I saw file copying activity from your account to external locations. Large transfers happening when you weren't even in the building. Finally. Someone else had noticed. Can you prove it? John looked nervous. Officially? No. But between you and me, someone's been using your login credentials to steal files. And I have a pretty good idea who. Bob? I can't say for sure, but he's been requesting unusual system permissions lately. John and I worked out a simple plan. He installed monitoring software on my computer that would track any access to my files, even when I wasn't logged in. It'll record everything, John explained. Screen activity, file transfers, even keystrokes. Just act normal and wait. I didn't have to wait long. Monday morning, I got a notification that someone had accessed my account at 11:47 p.m. Sunday night. I'd been home watching Netflix. Tuesday morning, John pulled me aside with a flash drive. You need to see this. We went to an empty conference room, and John plugged the drive into his laptop. Security footage from my computer screen appeared, timestamped Sunday at 11:47 p.m. The video showed someone sitting at my desk, using my computer. They opened my project folders and began copying files to an external drive. I recognized the expensive watch and distinctive silver ring. Bob. There's more, John said. The video showed Bob opening My Goodness Industries presentation and systematically corrupting each slide. He sabotaged my presentation. And I've got video proof. But Owen, this isn't the first time. John showed me more footage from previous weeks. Bob had been accessing my computer regularly, always late at night, always copying my work. The evidence was undeniable now. But I needed to be smarter than just showing video footage. The quarterly company party arrived Friday night. Everyone gathered at a downtown restaurant while I nursed a drink in the corner. Bob was holding court near the bar, entertaining executives with stories about saving, client presentations, and managing difficult team dynamics. Some people just can't handle the pressure of big accounts, he said loud enough for half the room to hear. You have to know when to step in and take control. Laughter rippled through his audience. Mr. Bryan nodded along, occasionally glancing my way with disappointment. The goodness disaster could have been avoided if certain people had accepted help when it was offered, Bob continued. That's when I realized Bob wasn't just destroying my career, he was using my failures to build his own reputation. Every sabotage positioned him as the competent alternative. Poor Owen over there looks like he's having a rough night, Bob said, raising his voice. Maybe the pressure's finally getting to him. Every head turned to look at me. The humiliation was complete and public. But instead of breaking me, it clarified something. Bob had made this personal. He wanted to destroy me in front of everyone. Fine. Two could play that game. Monday morning, I created the perfect trap. I spent the weekend developing a fake project proposal, a marketing campaign for a fictional client called Stanbic Solutions. The proposal was detailed and convincing, full of innovative strategies and impressive market research. But hidden throughout the document were digital watermarks John helped me embed. Invisible markers that would prove the original source if anyone copied the work. The fake client contact information led back to a phone number I controlled. I saved the file in my usual project folder and mentioned it during Tuesday's team meeting. I'm excited about this new prospect, I said, making sure Bob was listening. Stanbic Solutions could be our biggest client yet. Bob's eyes lit up with interest. Sounds promising. What kind of company are they? Tech startup looking to revolutionize their marketing approach. I saw the exact moment Bob decided to steal my work. His expression shifted from casual interest to focused hunger. Wednesday night, I got the expected notification. Someone had accessed my account at 10:23 p.m. and copied the Stanbic Solutions file. Thursday morning, Bob approached me with fake concern about needing backup support for my presentation. By Friday, I knew Bob would be ready to present his stolen work. The trap was set. The following Monday, Bob scheduled an emergency meeting with Mr. Bryan and the leadership team. "I've identified an incredible new business opportunity," he announced. "I'd like to present a proposal for Stanbic Solutions, a tech startup with massive growth potential." I sat in the back, my heart pounding. John had positioned himself near the presentation screen with his laptop ready. Bob launched into his presentation with complete confidence. He clicked through the slides I'd created, explaining his innovative marketing strategies. "This campaign could generate millions in revenue," Bob said. "I propose we move forward immediately." That's when the hidden triggers activated. As Bob clicked to his final slide, the screen suddenly filled with flashing text. This content was stolen from Owen Paul's original work. Gasps echoed through the room. Bob stared at the screen in shock, frantically clicking his remote. But every slide now displayed the same message, along with timestamps showing when the files were originally created. "What the hell?" Bob started. Furthermore, the text continued, "Any attempt to contact Stanbic Solutions will reveal this is a fictional client created to catch corporate theft." Bob spun around to face me. "You set me up." "I documented theft," I replied calmly. John stood up. "Actually, I can verify that Mr. Paul's account was illegally accessed multiple times. We have video evidence." "This is ridiculous," Bob protested, his face red with anger. "Owen is clearly trying to frame me because he can't handle fair competition." Mr. Bryan held up a hand. "John, what kind of evidence are you talking about?" "Security footage from Mr. Paul's workstation showing unauthorized access to his files. The person also sabotaged his Goodness Industries presentation." The room went quiet. Bob's uncle, sitting in the back corner, leaned forward with concern. "That's impossible," Bob said. "I would never." "We have video," John interrupted. "Clear footage of file theft and deliberate sabotage." Bob looked around desperately. "Even if that's true, which it's not, Owen admits he created fake files to entrap me. This whole thing is a setup." For a moment, I saw doubt creep into some faces. Mr. Bryan looked at me. "Owen, is it true you created a fake proposal specifically to catch Bob?" "Yes, sir. After my Goodness presentation was sabotaged, I needed proof of who was stealing my work." "So you admit this was entrapment?" My heart sank. But then I remembered what John had told me. "Sir, the Stanbic proposal was just the final trap. But we have evidence of Bob stealing my real work going back 2 months." Bob's confident expression faltered. "Show us," Mr. Bryan said grimly. John's laptop screen filled with security footage from my workstation. The timestamp showed 3 weeks earlier, the night before Bob's presentation that had humiliated me. The video was crystal clear. Bob sat at my computer, methodically copying my files to a USB drive. His face was perfectly visible as he worked. "As you can see," John narrated, "Mr. Graves accessed Mr. Paul's account without authorization and copied his project files at 11:47 p.m. on March 15, the night before his presentation." Murmurs rippled through the room. Bob's uncle shifted uncomfortably. "This proves nothing," Bob said desperately. "Owen could have asked me to get those files. Then why didn't you mention that when you presented the work as your own?" I asked. John continued. "We also have email evidence linking Mr. Graves' account to external file transfers. The email logs appeared on screen, showing dozens of transfers from my work folders to Bob's personal Gmail account. Furthermore," John said, "we have footage of Mr. Graves sabotaging Mr. Paul's Goodness Industries presentation." The sabotage video played next. Every executive watched in silence as Bob calmly destroyed my slides, inserting corrupted data and random images. When the video ended, the room was silent. Mr. Bryan's voice was ice cold. "Bob, do you have an explanation for this?" You don't understand the context. "The context is theft and sabotage," Mr. Bryan said. "Sir, I'd like to present this evidence formally," I said, standing up with the folder John and I had prepared. Mr. Bryan reviewed the printed documents. "This is very thorough. John, can you verify the authenticity?" "Absolutely, sir. All the security footage comes directly from our monitoring systems. Everything can be independently verified." Bob tried one last play. "Even if I made some mistakes, surely this doesn't warrant destroying my career over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I couldn't stay quiet. "You systematically stole my work for months. You sabotaged my presentations. You spread rumors about my mental stability. You tried to destroy my reputation and career. And you stole confidential files and shared them outside the company. That's corporate espionage," I added. The room was electric with tension. Bob's uncle was whispering urgently to another executive. Mr. Bryan closed the evidence folder. "Owen, I owe you an apology. Your performance concerns were clearly the result of deliberate sabotage. However," he continued, "the board will need to review this situation carefully. These are serious allegations with legal implications." My heart sank. Was he going to protect Bob? "In the meantime," Mr. Bryan said, "I'm placing Bob on immediate suspension pending a full investigation." Relief flooded through me. "Security will escort you out. You're not to contact any employees or access company systems." As Bob was led away, he shot me one final look of pure hatred. That evening, John filled me in on office politics I'd been too focused to notice. "Bob's uncle isn't just any investor," he explained over coffee. "He's on the board of directors and owns about 15% of the company." My heart sank. So they'll protect Bob? Maybe. But the evidence is too strong. And there's something else. I've been digging into the financial implications. The Goodness Industries deal that fell through was worth $3 million. $3 million? And I found evidence of other client losses traced back to Bob's sabotage of various employees. He's cost the company serious money. That changed things. Personal grudges were one thing, but costing the board millions was different. "There's more," John continued. "Bob wasn't just targeting you. I found evidence of him sabotaging at least 3 other employees over the past year. Always the same pattern. How many people has he destroyed? Hard to say. But I talked to Grace, and she mentioned 2 promising employees quit last year after having mysterious performance problems. Both left shortly after Bob joined their project teams." The scope of Bob's sabotage was bigger than I'd realized. Last year, another employee went through something similar. April John. She was brilliant, had amazing marketing ideas and great client relationships. What happened to her? Bob joined her team as a collaboration partner. Within 2 months, she was having mysterious computer problems, missed deadlines, client complaints. She got demoted and eventually quit. My blood ran cold. The same pattern. Exactly. But April tried to report it. She went to Mr. Bryan with concerns about Bob, but she didn't have proof like you do. What did Bryan do? Nothing. Told her to focus on her own performance instead of making accusations. A week later, she was transferred with reduced responsibilities. Grace looked around nervously. April called me after she quit. Said she was convinced Bob had been sabotaging her, but she couldn't prove it. Why didn't you say anything before? Because I was scared. April was popular and talented, and look what happened to her. This changed everything. Bob was a serial saboteur who'd been destroying careers for at least a year. Grace, would April be willing to come forward now? I can try to contact her. But Owen, the board sided with Bob over April. His uncle made sure of that. This time is different. This time we have video proof. That weekend, I met with John and April. John at a coffee shop downtown. April was professional, but I could see the lingering hurt when she talked about her experience. He was so smooth about it, she explained. Always offering to help, always positioning himself as supportive. But every time I shared work with him, something would go wrong. The same thing happened to me, I said. Client presentations would malfunction. Files would get corrupted. And Bob was always right there with a solution, ready to step in and save the day. John took notes as April described the systematic sabotage. Her story matched mine almost exactly. When I finally complained to Brian, Bob was ready. He had documentation of every time he'd helped me, every time he'd covered for my mistakes. Made it look like I was attacking my most supportive colleague. But now we have proof of his methods, I said. April shook her head sadly. Owen, you don't understand how powerful his uncle is. Even with video evidence, they'll find ways to minimize this. So what do you suggest? Go above the board. File complaints with the Labor Department. Make this too public for them to sweep away. John looked up from his notes. Actually, I might have a better idea. What if we present this as a security breach instead of a personnel issue? What do you mean? Bob stole confidential client information and transferred it to external accounts. That's corporate espionage. Even his uncle can't protect him from federal charges. Monday morning, I requested a meeting with the full board of directors. Mr. Brian tried to discourage me, but I insisted this was a matter of corporate security requiring immediate board attention. Wednesday at 2 p.m., I walked into the boardroom carrying 3 thick folders of evidence. The entire board was present, including Bob's uncle, who avoided eye contact. Gentlemen, I began, I'm here to report a serious security breach that has put our company at legal risk. I methodically presented the evidence John and I had compiled. The unauthorized access logs. The video footage of Bob stealing files. The email records showing confidential information transferred to external accounts. This isn't just employee misconduct, I explained. This is systematic corporate espionage. Client information, marketing strategies, financial projections, all copied and stored outside our secure systems. The board members shifted uncomfortably as they reviewed the evidence. Furthermore, this pattern has been ongoing for at least a year. We've identified multiple victims and can document millions in lost revenue due to sabotaged client relationships. Bob's uncle whispered to the board member beside him, but the man ignored him, focused on the evidence. The legal implications are severe, I concluded. Corporate espionage is a federal crime. If this reaches law enforcement, it could trigger investigations into all our security practices. The room was silent. Then the board chairman spoke. This is very concerning, Owen. What do you recommend? Immediate termination and a criminal referral to federal authorities. We need to show we take security breaches seriously. The boardroom erupted in heated discussion. Bob's uncle argued for handling things quietly, while other members worried about legal exposure. This could destroy the company's reputation, one member argued. Not reporting it could be worse, another countered. If this comes out later and we covered it up, we're all liable. That's when the conference room door burst open. Bob strode in, his face red with anger, followed by a flustered security guard. I demand the right to defend myself. Bob shouted. Sir, you're not authorized to be in this building, the guard said. The chairman held up a hand. Let him speak. Bob moved to the front, his usual composure gone. This is all a setup. Owen planted fake evidence because he couldn't handle fair competition. Bob, we have video evidence of you accessing Owen's computer and stealing files, the chairman said calmly. That video could be doctored. Owen and IT conspired to create fake evidence. I stood up. Bob, explain the goodness industry's sabotage. Explain why client information from my projects ended up in your personal email. I was backing up files for security purposes. By corrupting presentation slides? Bob looked around desperately. His uncle was staring at the table. You people don't understand, Bob said, his voice rising. Owen has been incompetent from day one. I was protecting this company by taking control of projects he would have ruined. The admission hung in the air. Bob had just confessed to systematic theft while trying to defend it. The chairman's voice was ice cold. Security, please escort Mr. Graves from the building. He's no longer employed here. Within an hour, security was walking Bob out with a cardboard box of personal items. I watched from my office window as he argued with the guards, gesturing wildly. The official announcement came that afternoon: Bob Graves has been terminated for cause due to serious policy violations and security breaches. But I knew this was just the beginning. Bob's final threat echoed in my mind. John stopped by my desk with an update. I've been monitoring Bob's digital footprint. He's been sending concerning messages. What kind of messages? Angry emails to former colleagues, social media posts about being betrayed by corporate politics, and some direct messages that sound threatening. John pulled up screenshots. He sent these to several employees from a fake account. The messages were chilling. Owen Paul thinks he won, but I know where he lives. This isn't over. John, this is harassment. We need to report this. I already did. Filed a report this morning. But Owen, you should be careful. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Enjoy your bridie while it lasts. I'm not finished with you. John immediately screenshotted it for evidence. That evening, I noticed a car parked across from my apartment that hadn't been there before. The rumors started immediately. Some colleagues quietly congratulated me for exposing Bob's theft. Others whispered that I'd gone too far, that office politics shouldn't involve police and federal investigators. You really stirred up a hornet's nest, Grace said during lunch. Half the office thinks you're a hero, the other half thinks you're a troublemaker. The division was obvious. Bob had been popular with certain groups who saw his termination as unfair corporate politics rather than actual wrongdoing. Meanwhile, the investigation was expanding. Federal agents had visited to interview employees and examine company servers. Bob's information theft was broader than we'd initially discovered. He copied client lists, financial reports, strategic planning documents, John explained. Everything he could access. The agents think he might have been planning to sell information or start a competing company. That afternoon, I found my car vandalized in the parking garage. Someone had keyed "Traitor" across the driver's side door and slashed 2 tires. Security footage showed a figure in dark clothing and a baseball cap, but the face wasn't visible. The police added it to their harassment case. This is escalating, the detective told me. We need to take precautions for your safety. I was beginning to understand that exposing Bob hadn't just cost him his job, it had destroyed his carefully constructed identity. That night, I installed extra locks and kept my phone ready. The final confrontation came Friday evening as I was leaving the office late. The parking garage was nearly empty when I heard footsteps echoing behind me. I turned to see Bob approaching from the shadows. He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes, his eyes wild with desperation. We need to talk, he said, moving closer. Bob, you're not supposed to be here. I'm calling security. Don't. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. I want to make a deal. What kind of deal? I've been documenting everything, every conversation, every meeting where you conspired against me. I have evidence that you and John fabricated evidence to frame me. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. That's not true. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what I can prove in court. Or what I can post online with your personal information attached. He was talking about doxing me, spreading lies across social media. What do you want, Bob? I want you to recant your testimony. Tell the company you made mistakes. Get me reinstated with a public apology. That's not going to happen. His face twisted with rage. Then you're going to suffer the consequences. I've already started posting about you online. About your address, your routine. I pulled out my phone to call police, but Bob lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. Don't be stupid, Owen. This can all go away if you just admit you were wrong. Let go of me. Not until you agree to. Security arrived, alerted by the garage cameras. 2 guards rushed over and pulled Bob away. As they restrained Bob, he screamed accusations at me. But security cameras had recorded everything. Within hours, Bob was arrested for criminal harassment and trespassing. The charges were serious, especially combined with the corporate espionage investigation. I gave a statement to police, providing copies of his threatening messages and documenting the escalating harassment pattern. He's looking at federal charges for information theft, plus state charges for harassment and stalking, the detective explained. Even with a good lawyer, he's facing serious prison time. The arrest made local business news. Former marketing executive arrested for corporate espionage and employee harassment. The media coverage triggered something unexpected. Other victims came forward. 3 former employees from other companies contacted police, reporting similar patterns of theft and sabotage by Bob at previous jobs. He's been doing this for years, the detective told me. Moving from company to company, stealing ideas and destroying careers. You're the first person who managed to gather enough evidence to stop him. Meanwhile, the company completed its internal investigation. Bob's uncle resigned from the board due to the conflict of interest. 2 other employees who'd helped cover up Bob's activities were terminated. Mr. Bryan called me into his office. Owen, I owe you more than an apology. The board has voted to promote you to Senior Marketing Director, with a significant salary increase and oversight of the entire marketing department. I sat in the same chair where I'd been put on probation just months earlier. We also want to discuss your ideas for improving our internal security protocols. The irony wasn't lost on me. Bob's attempts to destroy my career had actually elevated it beyond anything I'd originally hoped for. 6 months later, I sat in the same boardroom where Bob had tried to present my stolen work. But now I was running the meeting, presenting quarterly marketing results to attentive executives. Revenue is up 37% from last year, I reported. Client retention has improved significantly, and we've landed several major new accounts. The applause was genuine this time, earned through actual work rather than theft. Mr. Bryan nodded approvingly. After the meeting, I returned to my new corner office with windows overlooking the city. My name was on the door in gold letters, Owen Paul, Senior Marketing Director. John stopped by with an update on Bob's case. He took a plea deal. 7 years in federal prison for corporate espionage, plus 3 years of probation. And the harassment charges? Another 2 years for stalking and criminal threats. I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Bob had destroyed himself through his own choices. I looked around the boardroom where Bob had humiliated me, where I'd felt powerless just months earlier. Now I commanded respect from the same executives who'd once dismissed me as support staff. He tried to ruin me, I said. Instead, he built me. The story had taught me that sometimes the people who try to tear you down end up elevating you higher than you could have climbed on your own. Standing up for yourself can change everything. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the playlist now.